When did you first hear yourself that Parvin Butte was going to be mined?
Um, well, not until after the trees came off. So this is a
Uh-huh.
couple years ago. You saw the trees come off, and you thought, boy, that's pretty radical the way they're taking them down. And
So you just thought they were logging Parvin Butte,
yeah,
or?
we just thought they were
Mm-hmm.
they were logging it. I mean, you see clear coats all over the place, and so
Right.
you kind of get used to that, and they replant it. But
Right.
that didn't make a lot of sense because the way they were doing it was kind of bulldozer logging. It wasn't standard logging practices is what we were seeing up there,
Mm-hmm.
and so there was some suspicion about some things going on. But then I heard later on that um, uh, they were gonna mine it, and then I heard
Right.
that the whole mountain was going to be removed. It's not just this little side notch quarry, but the entire thing is going to come down.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was surprised by a lot of things. I was surprised because back in '73, when they're coming in with the land use planning laws, there were some protections built in for review. And the idea in 1973, or I think it was around that time, when we're developing the land use planning laws, is we realized you couldn't really predict the future 50 years out.
Right.
50 years out, there could be other things that have gone on an endangered species list, and there could be massive changes in population base. There could be a lot of factors that you don't know about in 1973. So there were provisions built into the law called site review, and these were county level things where you would look at the site and you would review it to see if it's compatible with the community and with the environment and all those things. Well, the interesting thing with this is that the McDoughals are arguing that they didn't need a site review. And I was thinking, what do you mean you don't need a site review? Of course you need a site review. It was built into the law in '73. Well, the interesting thing is, since Oregon's a home rule state, meaning that there's a provision in the state constitution that says land use decisions, as long as they don't violate the Oregon Constitution, can be made at the local level, and the state will defer to local level, county authorities for land use decisions. Well, somewhere along the line, there was a provision, a code written into the law, clearly by industry, that said if you have a 200-foot buffer with trees, then you don't need to go through a site review. Actually, the wording is even more vague than that. It might not need a site review. The wording similar to that. And so they were arguing that since that's in the Lane County Code, that they don't have to have a site review because they've got a 200-foot setback.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the interesting thing is it says 200-foot setback will be left with trees. You leave trees in the 200-foot setback. And the reason it passed is because, the more progressive members, lawmakers back in those days were thinking, well, okay, a 200-foot of forest land would provide a visual buffer between the actual quarry mine and the adjoining properties. So, 200 foot of trees, that's a pretty good buffer. Okay. Well, what the McDoughal Brothers did, and Lost Creek Rock Products, is they cut those trees right to the property line. And they're still maintaining that that's a 200-foot buffer. Well, by cutting the trees, it put them out of compliance with DOGAMI, which is the state agency or Department of Geology and Mineral Industries.
Right,
Okay,
right.
so it's an industry agency at the state level. So they're out of compliance with their laws, but they don't have any enforcement power. So all they could do is say, well, you took the trees.
Dogami doesn't have any
No,
enforcement
no,
power.
they can't fine them.
Right.
All they can do is ask them to put the trees back. So that's what
Right.
they did. So say if you
That's
cut.
what they did. What do you mean?
Well, they replanted it with 12-inch trees, and they're saying, okay, there's your 200-foot buffer with trees.
Right.
So clearly it violates the intent of the law, but not the way Dogami sees it, and not the way our three conservative Lane County commissioners see it. So basically what you have is a great incentive to break the law, because say if you got, pond weight, let's be really conservative. Say you get $300 a tree, pond weight for a tree, $300. Your penalty for taking that tree is that you have to put it back with a seedling. Seedlings are 35 cents a piece. Kentine Nursery, that's what I pay for my seedlings, 35 cents. So your profit is $300. Your penalty is 35 cents.
Right.
And that's how they're able to get around it. Now, clearly, a 12-inch tree is not a visual buffer. I mean, this is supposed to have a visual buffer of trees left on the site.
See those trees from here.
Right.
Yeah.
But though GAMI said, well, the law says there has to be trees, but it doesn't say how big. So that's how our state agencies that are protecting us are interpreting the law. Now, the thing about it is the industry has been very proactive in these kind of things. The industry is the one that sees 10 years downstream that they might want to mine something like this. And so they can very carefully put those provisions, those little loopholes into the law that they might not need to exploit for 7 to 10 years out. And then they come in and we're all surprised by it, because a community like this, we're thinking this is rural, quiet community. I know all my neighbors. I know kind of what they do and, what crops they raise and what animals they have. And, we all get along pretty well and it's quiet. And then something like this comes in, which really changes a rural community to an industrial sort of setting.